Undercover Millionaire CEO walks into his store, finds the cleaner crying. What happened next shocked everyone. It was just another busy Monday morning at Brightmart Superstores, one of the largest retail chains in the city. Employees rushed around preparing for what they thought was a routine inspection, but what none of them knew was that the man about to walk through those doors wasn't just an inspector. He was Gabriel Hayes, the millionaire CEO and owner of the entire Brightmart franchise, and he was coming in disguise. Gabriel had built his empire from nothing, working his way up from poverty to become one of the most successful businessmen in the country. But lately, something had been bothering him. Profits were stable, sales were strong, but employee complaints kept rising. Whispers of mistreatment, reports of hostile work environments, and every time he asked his regional managers about it, they assured him everything was fine. But Gabriel's gut told him otherwise. So he made a decision that would change everything. He would go undercover in his own store. That morning, he traded his expensive tailored suits for a simple gray hoodie and faded jeans. He walked into his flagship location, looking like any other customer, and nobody recognized him. He watched quietly, observing how his employees were really being treated. And that's when he saw her, a young woman in a cleaning uniform, head down, pushing a mop across the floor. Her name tag read Maya, and as she worked, a single tear rolled down her cheek. Before Gabriel could approach her, a loud, harsh voice cut through the store. "You missed a spot again, Maya. Do you even know how to clean?" It was the store manager, Mr. Caldwell, and what happened next would expose a truth that Gabriel could never ignore. Before we go any further, I need to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. And if you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what happens next in Maya's story will restore your faith that justice is real. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. Gabriel Hayes hadn't always been a millionaire. In fact, there was a time when he had nothing at all. He grew up in a small apartment in the Bronx with his single mother, who worked 3 jobs just to keep the lights on and food on the table. Gabriel remembered those days vividly. The nights when his mother came home so exhausted she could barely stand. The times they had to choose between paying the electric bill or buying groceries. The shame he felt wearing the same worn-out shoes to school every single day while other kids laughed at him. But his mother never let him give up. She told him over and over that hard work and integrity were the only things that truly mattered. That money could be lost, but character stayed with you forever. Gabriel carried those words with him through every struggle, every setback, every moment when quitting seemed easier than pushing forward. He started working when he was 14 years old, bagging groceries at a local supermarket. By 16, he was working 2 jobs, saving every penny he could. He put himself through community college, then transferred to a state university on a partial scholarship, working full-time to cover the rest. He studied business administration, not because he dreamed of being rich, but because he wanted to understand how systems worked, how companies were built, how people could be treated fairly and still generate profit. After graduation, Gabriel took a job as an assistant manager at a small retail store. He was good at it, really good. He understood people, understood what motivated them, what discouraged them. He saw how respect and fair treatment could turn an average team into an exceptional one. Within 3 years, he was managing multiple locations. Within 5, he had saved enough to buy a struggling store that was about to go bankrupt. That store became the first Brightmart. Gabriel poured everything he had into it. He worked 18-hour days, 7 days a week. He stocked shelves, cleaned floors, worked the registers, managed inventory. But more importantly, he treated his employees the way he wished he'd been treated in all those years of working low-wage jobs. He paid them fairly. He listened to their concerns. He created opportunities for advancement. And slowly, the store began to thrive. 1 store became 2, 2 became 5, 5 became 20. Within 15 years, Brightmart had grown into a national chain with over 200 locations and thousands of employees. Gabriel had become the success story people wrote articles about, the self-made millionaire who proved that the American dream was still possible. But somewhere along the way, as the company grew bigger and bigger, Gabriel started to lose touch with the very foundation he'd built it on. He was no longer stocking shelves or talking to employees on the floor. He was in boardrooms, on conference calls, reviewing spreadsheets and profit margins. He told himself he was still connected, still aware, still the same person who'd started with nothing. But the truth was, he'd become distant, removed, insulated by layers of management and corporate structure. It wasn't until 6 months ago that Gabriel started noticing the cracks. It began with an anonymous email sent to the corporate office. An employee at one of the Houston locations described a toxic work environment, a manager who played favorites, who humiliated workers in front of customers, who made people feel worthless. Gabriel forwarded the complaint to his regional director, expecting it to be handled swiftly and professionally. 2 weeks later, he followed up. The regional director assured him it had been investigated and resolved. The employee who complained had simply been disgruntled, he was told. The manager in question was one of their best performers. Everything was fine. But Gabriel couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Then came another complaint, and another. Different stores, different cities, but the same themes kept appearing. Managers abusing their power, employees too afraid to speak up, a culture of fear disguised as efficiency. Gabriel tried addressing it through official channels. He sent memos about company values. He updated the employee handbook. He even launched an anonymous reporting hotline. But the complaints didn't stop. If anything, they increased. That's when Gabriel realized that the problem wasn't going to be solved from the top down. He needed to see it for himself. He needed to go back to his roots, back to the floor, back to the reality that his employees faced every single day. So he made the decision. No announcements, no warnings, just him, a disguise, and a determination to uncover the truth. The Brightmart location Gabriel chose for his undercover visit was in Atlanta, one of the company's top-performing stores. On paper, everything looked perfect. Sales exceeded projections, inventory management was efficient, customer satisfaction scores were high. The store manager, Richard Caldwell, had been with the company for 8 years and had won multiple performance awards, but Gabriel had received 3 separate complaints about this specific location in the past 4 months. All 3 had been dismissed by regional management as minor issues or misunderstandings. All 3 mentioned Caldwell by name. Gabriel wanted to see for himself. That Monday morning, he woke up before dawn in his downtown Atlanta hotel room. He looked at himself in the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. Instead of his usual custom-fitted suit, crisp white shirt, and Italian leather shoes, he wore faded blue jeans, old sneakers, and a plain gray hoodie. He hadn't shaved in 3 days, and his normally neat hair was hidden under a worn baseball cap. He looked like a man who needed a job, which was exactly the point. Gabriel drove to the store in a rental car, parking far from the entrance so no one would see him arrive. He sat there for a moment, watching employees filter in through the back entrance, their faces tired, their movements automatic. He remembered being that person, clocking in for a shift that would drain every ounce of energy, knowing that the paycheck at the end of the week would barely cover the bills. He took a deep breath and stepped out of the car. The store was already bustling with activity when Gabriel walked through the front entrance. Employees were restocking shelves, setting up promotional displays, preparing for what they'd been told was an inspection by corporate. The irony wasn't lost on Gabriel. They were preparing for corporate to inspect them, not knowing that corporate was already there, watching everything. Gabriel moved slowly through the aisles, pretending to browse. He picked up items, examined them, put them back, but his real attention was on the people around him. He watched how employees interacted with each other. He listened to the tone of their conversations. He observed their body language. What he saw troubled him. The employees moved with a kind of nervous energy. They glanced over their shoulders constantly, as if afraid of being watched. When they spoke to each other, it was in hushed tones, quick exchanges that ended the moment anyone in management walked by. There was no laughter, no casual conversation, just tension. And then there was the manager. Richard Caldwell was a tall man in his mid-40s with slicked back hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He walked through the store like he owned it, barking orders, criticizing employees publicly, making his presence known at every turn. Gabriel watched as Caldwell stopped in front of a young man restocking canned goods. "Is this how you were trained to face products?" Caldwell said loudly, his voice dripping with condescension. "Labels forward, cans aligned. It's not complicated. Even a child could do it." The young employee's face flushed red. "Sorry, sir. I'll fix it right away." "You should have done it right the first time," Caldwell snapped. "I don't have time to babysit incompetence." Gabriel's jaw tightened. He forced himself to remain still, to keep observing. This was exactly what he'd come to see. As he continued walking through the store, Gabriel noticed something else. The employees weren't just nervous around Caldwell. They were afraid, genuinely afraid. They avoided eye contact with him. They changed their routes to stay out of his path. And when he spoke to them, they responded with the kind of submissive body language that came from being broken down over time. This wasn't management. This was intimidation. Gabriel made his way toward the back of the store, near the cleaning supply closet and employee break room. The area was quieter, away from customers, and he hoped he might overhear something useful. That's when he saw her for the first time. She was young, probably late 20s, with her dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore the standard-issue cleaning uniform, which hung a little loose on her thin frame, as if she'd recently lost weight. Her name tag was slightly crooked and read Maya in faded letters. She was pushing a mop bucket across the tile floor, her movements quick and efficient, trying to finish her task and move on to the next one. But it was her face that stopped Gabriel in his tracks. Even from a distance, he could see the exhaustion etched into her features, dark circles under her eyes, a tightness around her mouth that spoke of stress and worry. And then, as she paused to wring out the mop, Gabriel saw something that hit him like a punch to the gut. A tear rolled slowly down her cheek. She wiped it away quickly, almost angrily, as if she had no right to cry, as if tears were a luxury she couldn't afford. And then she went back to mopping, her shoulders slightly hunched, her entire posture screaming defeat. Gabriel felt something shift inside him. This was why he'd come. This was the truth hidden behind the sales reports and performance metrics. A human being, working hard, suffering in silence, invisible to everyone around her. He was about to approach her, to ask if she was okay, when a loud voice shattered the moment. "Maya!" The woman's entire body tensed. She turned toward the voice, and Gabriel followed her gaze. Richard Caldwell was striding toward her, his expression twisted in irritation. "How many times do I have to tell you?" Caldwell's voice echoed through the store, deliberately loud, meant to humiliate. "You missed a spot. Again, right there, in front of the dairy section. Do you even know how to clean properly, or did you lie on your application?" Maya's face flushed with shame. "I'm sorry, Mr. Caldwell. I'll go back and fix it right now." Caldwell stepped closer, invading her personal space in a way that was clearly meant to intimidate. "You're always sorry, Maya, but sorry doesn't keep this store clean. Sorry doesn't justify your paycheck." He grabbed the mop from her hands, his movements rough and dismissive. "Maybe if you spent less time crying and more time working, you'd actually be useful around here." The words were cruel, designed to cut deep, and they did. Gabriel could see it in the way Maya's shoulders sagged, in the way her eyes dropped to the floor, in the way she seemed to shrink into herself. Other employees had stopped what they were doing. They were watching the scene unfold, but none of them intervened. None of them said a word. They just stood there, silent witnesses to the humiliation of one of their own. Caldwell shoved the mop back into Maya's hands. "Get it done right this time, and stop wasting my time with your incompetence. People like you are lucky to even have a job here. Remember that." He turned and walked away, leaving Maya standing there, trembling, her eyes filled with unshed tears. Gabriel's hands clenched into fists. Every instinct screamed at him to intervene, to reveal who he was right then and there, to fire Caldwell on the spot. But he knew that wouldn't be enough. He needed to understand the full scope of the problem. He needed evidence, witnesses, a complete picture. So he stayed silent. But he made a promise to himself in that moment. This would not stand, not in his company, not on his watch. Maya returned to her work, moving mechanically, her face carefully blank. Gabriel watched her for a long moment, his mind racing. Then he pulled out his phone and discreetly started taking notes. Times, locations, direct quotes. Everything he would need later. The rest of the morning unfolded in much the same way. Gabriel continued to observe, and what he saw confirmed his worst fears. Caldwell's behavior toward Maya wasn't an isolated incident. It was a pattern. He spoke to several other employees with the same condescending tone, the same public humiliation tactics. But Maya seemed to bear the brunt of his cruelty. Gabriel noticed other things too. Caldwell took credit for work done by his team. He gave preferential treatment to certain employees, usually younger women who seemed uncomfortable with his attention. He cut corners on safety protocols to save time, and he falsified break schedules to make his productivity numbers look better. This wasn't just a bad manager. This was someone who had systematically created a toxic environment and had been getting away with it for years. Around noon, the store quieted down slightly as the morning rush ended. Gabriel saw Maya slip away to the back area, toward the employee break room. He waited a moment, then followed, keeping his distance. The break room was small and cramped, with a few old tables, a refrigerator, and a microwave that looked like it had seen better days. Maya wasn't in the main room. Gabriel heard a sound coming from behind a stack of supply boxes in the corner, tucked away from view. He walked quietly toward the sound and found her there, sitting on the floor with her back against the wall, her knees pulled up to her chest, crying silently into her hands. Gabriel's heart broke. He cleared his throat softly. "Hey, you okay?" Maya's head snapped up, her eyes wide with fear. She scrambled to her feet, wiping her face frantically. "I'm fine," she said quickly, her voice shaky. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't be back here. I was just taking my break." "You don't have to apologize," Gabriel said gently. He kept his distance, not wanting to scare her. "I'm not management, just someone who noticed you seemed upset." Maya studied him warily, clearly trying to decide if she could trust him. Finally, she let out a long, exhausted breath. "I'm fine," she repeated, but there was no conviction in her voice. "Just a long day." "Does he always talk to you like that?" Gabriel asked quietly. Maya's jaw tightened. For a moment, she didn't answer. Then she nodded slowly. "Yeah, pretty much every day." "Why do you put up with it?" The question seemed to break something in her. Her eyes filled with tears again, and this time she didn't try to hide them. "Because I don't have a choice," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't afford to lose this job. I can't afford to make waves or file complaints or stand up for myself. I just have to keep my head down and get through each day." Gabriel felt a surge of anger, not at her, but at the system that had put her in this position. At managers like Caldwell who exploited that vulnerability. "Can I ask why?" he said gently. "Why you can't afford to lose this job?" Maya hesitated, then seemed to decide that she had nothing left to lose by being honest. "I'm a single mom," she said. "I have a 6-year-old daughter, Lily, and my mother, she lives with us. She was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer 8 months ago. The treatment is expensive, even with insurance. I'm working here full-time and I have a second job at a diner 4 nights a week. Every dollar I make goes toward medical bills, rent, and childcare." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I can't risk losing this job, even if it means letting someone like Caldwell treat me like I'm nothing. Because if I lose this income, I lose everything. My mom doesn't get her treatment. I can't pay rent. My daughter suffers. So I take it. I take the insults and the humiliation and the cruelty. Because what choice do I have?" Gabriel felt like someone had punched him in the chest. This woman wasn't weak. She wasn't incompetent. She was one of the strongest people he'd ever met, carrying a weight that would have crushed most people, and doing it with dignity and grace even as she was being torn down every single day. And it was happening in his company, under his name. "I'm sorry," Gabriel said, and he meant it with every fiber of his being. "I'm sorry you're going through this, and I'm sorry you're being treated this way." Maya looked surprised, as if kindness was the last thing she'd expected. "It's not your fault," she said quietly. "It's just how things are." "It shouldn't be," Gabriel said firmly. "No one should have to endure what you're going through. Not here, not anywhere." "Shibri," Maya gave him a sad smile. "That's a nice thought. But the world doesn't work that way. Not for people like me. Gabriel wanted to tell her who he was. Wanted to tell her that he could fix this, right now, today. But something held him back. He needed to do this right. He needed to make sure that when he acted, it would be decisive and permanent, that Caldwell and anyone else who enabled this behavior would face real consequences. "What's your name?" he asked. "Maya," she said. "I'm Gabriel," he replied, leaving out his last name. "Nice to meet you, Gabriel," Maya said, managing a small, genuine smile despite everything. Gabriel stayed and talked with Maya for a few more minutes. He asked about her daughter, her mother, her life outside of work. Maya opened up gradually, sharing small details that painted a picture of a woman who was struggling but hadn't given up, who still found joy in her daughter's laughter, who still hoped that things would get better someday. When Maya's break ended, she stood and straightened her uniform, preparing to go back out onto the floor. "Thank you for listening," she said. "Most people don't bother." "Anytime," Gabriel said, and he meant it. He watched her walk away, her shoulders a little straighter than before, and made a silent vow. By the end of the week, everything would change. The rest of that day, Gabriel continued his observation. He saw Caldwell berate another employee for taking a bathroom break. He saw him flirt inappropriately with a young cashier who looked deeply uncomfortable. He saw him take credit for a merchandise display that one of the stockers had clearly worked hard on. And every single thing Gabriel saw, he documented. Photos, notes, times, witnesses. He was building a case, not just against Caldwell, but against the entire system that had allowed this to happen. That evening, after the store closed, Gabriel returned to his hotel and made several phone calls. First, to his head of human resources. "I need you to pull every piece of documentation we have on Richard Caldwell, every performance review, every complaint, every incident report, and I need it by tomorrow morning." The HR director, a sharp woman named Patricia, didn't ask questions. She knew Gabriel well enough to know that when he used that tone, something serious was happening. "You'll have it," she promised. Next, Gabriel called his chief legal counsel. "I need you to review our policies on workplace harassment, hostile work environments, and wrongful termination. And I need to know what our legal exposure is if we've been ignoring complaints." His lawyer, Tom, was quiet for a moment. "Gabriel, what's going on?" "Just get me the information," Gabriel said. "I'll explain everything soon." Finally, he called his head of operations. "I'm making some changes," Gabriel said. "Effective immediately. I want a full audit of all management practices across every store. Anonymous employee surveys, surprise inspections, the works. And I want it done quietly." By the time Gabriel hung up the phone, it was past midnight, but he couldn't sleep. His mind kept returning to Maya, sitting on that floor, crying in silence because she had no other choice. He had built this company on the belief that everyone deserved dignity. That hard work should be rewarded, not punished. That power should be used to lift people up, not tear them down. Somewhere along the way, he'd lost sight of that. He'd let the company grow so big that he couldn't see the cracks anymore. He'd trusted the wrong people. He'd been too far removed. But that ended now. The next morning, Patricia sent over the files on Richard Caldwell. Gabriel spent 3 hours reading through them, and what he found made his blood boil. There had been complaints, lots of them. Over the past 8 years, 17 different employees had filed formal complaints about Caldwell's behavior. Complaints about verbal abuse, discrimination, harassment, creating a hostile work environment, and every single one had been dismissed. The regional director had protected Caldwell, claiming he was a high performer, that the complaints were exaggerated, that people were just being too sensitive. Caldwell had connections, Gabriel realized. He'd built relationships with people higher up in the company who valued results over ethics. Gabriel also discovered something else. 3 of the employees who had filed complaints no longer worked for Brightmart. They'd quit shortly after their complaints were dismissed. One of them had even filed a lawsuit, which the company had settled quietly out of court. Gabriel had never even heard about it. It had been handled at the regional level, buried before it could reach him. He sat back in his chair, feeling sick. This wasn't just about Caldwell. This was about a systemic failure, a culture that had allowed abuse to flourish because no one wanted to rock the boat. Well, Gabriel was about to capsize the entire ship. He picked up the phone and called Patricia again. "I need you and Tom to meet me in Atlanta tomorrow morning. And I need you to arrange for security to be present at the Brightmart location on Peachtree Street, discreetly." "Gabriel, what's happening?" Patricia asked, concern in her voice. "Justice," Gabriel said simply. "That's what's happening." The next day was Tuesday. Gabriel woke up early, but this time he didn't put on the hoodie and jeans. He dressed in one of his best suits, navy blue with a crisp white shirt and a silver tie. He looked every inch the CEO he was. Patricia and Tom met him in the hotel lobby, both looking worried. "Are you going to tell us what's going on?" Tom asked. Gabriel handed them both a folder. Inside were copies of all the complaints against Caldwell, photos Gabriel had taken, notes from his observations, and witness statements he'd already started collecting. They read in silence. When they finished, both of them looked horrified. "This has been happening for 8 years, Patricia said, her voice shaking with anger. "At least," Gabriel confirmed. "And it's not just him. The regional director has been covering for him. I want both of them gone." "We can do that," Tom said. "With this evidence, we have grounds for immediate termination." "Good," Gabriel said, "because we're doing it today." An hour later, Gabriel walked through the front doors of the Brightmart on Peachtree Street. But this time, he wasn't alone. Patricia and Tom walked beside him, along with 2 security officers and the district supervisor, a man named Marcus, who'd been with the company for 15 years and had always been loyal to Gabriel's vision. The moment they entered, conversations stopped. Employees froze mid-task, staring at the group in confusion and fear. Marcus stepped forward. "Can I have everyone's attention, please?" The store went completely silent. "I'd like to introduce you to someone," Marcus continued. "This is Gabriel Hayes, the founder and CEO of Brightmart. If the store had been quiet before, it was a tomb now." Every single person turned to look at Gabriel, shock written across their faces. Somewhere in the back, Gabriel heard someone drop something. The sound echoed in the silence. Richard Caldwell emerged from his office, his face already pale. He'd clearly heard the announcement. "Mr. Hayes," Caldwell said, his voice tight as he tried to smile. "What a surprise. If I'd known you were coming, I would have prepared." "I don't want your preparations, Mr. Caldwell," Gabriel said, his voice cold and clear. "I want the truth." Caldwell's smile faltered. "I'm sorry, sir. I don't understand." "Don't you?" Gabriel said. He looked around the store, making eye contact with several employees. Most of them looked terrified, but a few, including Maya, who stood near the cleaning supply closet, looked confused and hopeful. Gabriel turned his attention back to Caldwell. "Mr. Caldwell, over the past 8 years, 17 formal complaints have been filed against you by employees at this store. Complaints of verbal abuse, harassment, and creating a hostile work environment. All of those complaints were dismissed by your regional director. Would you like to explain why?" The color drained completely from Caldwell's face. "Those complaints were misunderstandings, people being oversensitive. I run a tight ship, Mr. Hayes. That's why this store performs so well." "A tight ship," Gabriel repeated slowly. "Is that what you call telling an employee that people like her are lucky to even have a job here? Is that what you call grabbing a mop out of someone's hands and humiliating them in front of customers?" Caldwell's eyes widened. He looked around frantically, trying to figure out how Gabriel knew these things. "I was here yesterday," Gabriel said simply. "Undercover. I saw everything. If this story is hitting you the way it's hitting me, go ahead and smash that like button. Drop a comment and tell me if you've ever witnessed or experienced workplace bullying, and make sure you're subscribed." The silence in the store was deafening. Every employee stood frozen, barely breathing, watching as their world shifted beneath their feet. Caldwell's face had gone from pale to ashen, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water as he struggled to find words that might save him. "Mr. Hayes, I can explain," Caldwell stammered, his voice cracking. "You have to understand, running a store like this requires discipline. Sometimes employees need tough management to stay productive. I was just doing my job." Gabriel took a step closer, His eyes locked on Caldwell with an intensity that made the manager flinch. "Your job," Gabriel said slowly, each word carefully measured, "is to lead a team with respect and integrity. Your job is to create an environment where people feel valued and motivated to do their best work. Your job is to uphold the values that this company was built on." He paused, letting the words sink in before continuing. "What you've been doing is abusing your power. You've been bullying employees who depend on their paychecks to survive. You've been creating a culture of fear instead of excellence. And you've been hiding behind performance metrics while destroying people's dignity." Caldwell's hands were shaking now. He glanced toward the other employees, perhaps hoping to find support, but everyone looked away. No one was going to save him. Gabriel turned slightly, addressing the entire store now, his voice carrying to every corner. "I started this company 20 years ago with nothing but a dream and a commitment to treat people the way I wished I'd been treated when I was working minimum wage jobs just to survive. I built Brightmart on the principle that every person who walks through these doors, whether they're a customer or an employee, deserves respect and dignity." His voice grew stronger, more passionate. "But somewhere along the way, as this company grew, I lost touch with what was happening on the ground. I trusted the wrong people. I didn't ask enough questions. I didn't listen carefully enough. And because of that, people like you suffered in silence." He looked directly at Maya, who stood near the back of the gathered crowd, her eyes wide with disbelief, tears streaming down her face. "That ends today," Gabriel said firmly. He turned back to Caldwell. "Mr. Caldwell, you are terminated, effective immediately. Security will escort you from the premises. You have 15 minutes to collect your personal belongings from your office." Caldwell's face went red. "You can't do this. I have rights. I'll sue. I have connections in this company." "Those connections are also being dealt with as we speak," Gabriel said coolly. "Your regional director, who buried every complaint filed against you, is being terminated as well. And if you choose to sue, I welcome it. Because we have documentation of every single complaint that was filed against you, every witness statement, and photographic evidence of your behavior. I spent yesterday documenting everything I saw. You won't win." Tom, the legal counsel, stepped forward and handed Caldwell a manila envelope. "This contains your termination notice, information about your final paycheck, and details about your benefits continuation under COBRA. I suggest you read it carefully and consult with an attorney if you have questions." Caldwell snatched the envelope, his hands trembling with rage and humiliation. "This is a mistake. You're going to regret this." "The only thing I regret," Gabriel said quietly, "is that I didn't come here sooner." The two security officers moved to either side of Caldwell, not touching him but making their presence known. "Gentlemen, please escort Mr. Caldwell to his office and then off the premises," Gabriel instructed. As Caldwell was led away, he shot one last venomous look at Maya. "This is your fault," he hissed. "You couldn't just do your job without crying about it." Gabriel's voice cut through the air like a whip. "Mr. Caldwell, one more word, and I'll make sure that every retail chain in this country knows exactly why you were terminated. I suggest you leave quietly." Caldwell's mouth snapped shut. He turned and walked toward his office, the security officers following close behind. The moment he disappeared from view, the tension in the store broke. Several employees started crying. Others hugged each other. A few stood in stunned silence, as if they couldn't quite believe what had just happened. Gabriel waited until Caldwell was completely out of sight before speaking again. "I owe all of you an apology," he said, his voice heavy with genuine remorse. "What happened here should never have happened. You trusted this company to provide not just a paycheck, but a safe and respectful workplace. And we failed you. I failed you." He looked around at the faces, staring back at him, some hopeful, some still fearful, all waiting to see what would happen next. "Effective, immediately. We're making changes. First, I'm bringing in a new store manager, someone I trust completely, who shares the values this company was built on. Marcus here will be serving as interim manager until we find the right permanent replacement, and I promise you, that person will be someone who treats you with the respect you deserve." Marcus stepped forward, nodding to the assembled employees. Several of them visibly relaxed. Marcus had a reputation as a fair and kind leader. Second, Gabriel continued, we're implementing a new reporting system. If you experience or witness any form of harassment, discrimination, or abuse, you'll have a direct line to our corporate HR department, not through regional management, but straight to the top. And every single complaint will be investigated thoroughly and impartially. He paused, making eye contact with as many employees as he could. Third, we're conducting a full review of management practices across every Brightmart location. Anonymous surveys, surprise inspections, everything. Because if this was happening here, it might be happening elsewhere, and I will not tolerate it. Patricia stepped forward and added, we'll also be bringing in an independent workplace consultant to conduct interviews with every employee here. Everything you say will be confidential, and there will be no retaliation of any kind. We want to hear your experiences, your concerns, and your suggestions for how we can do better. Gabriel took a deep breath. I know that words are easy, and trust is hard. I know that some of you have been hurt badly by what's happened here, and that it will take time to believe that things can really change. All I can ask is that you give us a chance to prove it to you. He looked directly at Maya again. Maya, could you please step forward? Maya's eyes went wide with fear. She looked around as if hoping he was talking to someone else, but everyone was staring at her. Slowly, hesitantly, she walked through the crowd until she stood a few feet away from Gabriel. Up close, Gabriel could see the exhaustion etched even deeper into her features, the dark circles under her eyes, the way her uniform hung on her thin frame, the trembling in her hands. Maya, Gabriel said gently, yesterday I watched you work harder than almost anyone in this store. I watched you handle insults and humiliation with grace and dignity. I heard about your daughter, your mother, the impossible weight you've been carrying. Maya's eyes filled with tears. Mr. Hayes, please, let me finish, Gabriel said kindly. What I saw in you wasn't weakness. It was strength. Incredible, remarkable strength. You didn't give up, even when giving up would have been completely understandable. You kept showing up, kept doing your best, kept taking care of your family. He paused, his voice thick with emotion. That's the kind of person I want working for this company. Not because you can mop floors, though I'm sure you do that excellently, but because you have integrity, resilience, and compassion, qualities that can't be taught. Oh, Maya wiped her eyes, confusion and hope warring on her face. So here's what's going to happen, Gabriel continued. You're being transferred out of this store, not because you did anything wrong, but because you deserve better. I'm offering you a position at our corporate headquarters in the Employee Relations Department. You'll be working directly with Patricia here to help us improve working conditions across all our stores. Maya's legs seemed to give out. She stumbled slightly, and Gabriel reached out to steady her. I don't understand, she whispered. Why me? Because you've lived the reality that most corporate executives never see, Gabriel said. Because you understand what it's like to be vulnerable, to be afraid, to be treated as if you don't matter, and that perspective is invaluable. We need people like you helping us make decisions, not just people who've spent their entire careers in boardrooms. Patricia stepped forward with a folder. The position comes with a significant salary increase, full health benefits, including comprehensive coverage for your mother's cancer treatment, paid time off, and flexible working hours, so you can spend time with your daughter. We'll also provide assistance with childcare if you need it. Maya stared at the folder as if it might disappear if she touched it. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Gabriel said with a gentle smile. Say yes, and help us make sure that what happened to you never happens to anyone else. Maya looked up at him, tears streaming freely now, and nodded. Yes, yes, thank you. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me, Gabriel said. You earned this. You survived something that would have broken most people, and you did it with dignity. That's worth more than any degree or credential. The store erupted in applause. Employees who had stood by silently yesterday, too afraid to intervene, were now cheering for one of their own. Several people rushed forward to hug Maya, congratulating her, crying with her. Gabriel stepped back, letting her have this moment. He watched as this woman, who had been invisible and voiceless just 24 hours ago, was finally seen and celebrated. Patricia leaned close to Gabriel and whispered, "That was a good thing you just did." "It's the right thing," Gabriel corrected. "There's a difference." Over the next hour, Gabriel spent time talking to other employees individually. He heard story after story of Caldwell's abuse, the favoritism, the inappropriate comments, the way he pitted employees against each other. But he also heard about the fear that kept them silent, the worry that complaining would cost them their jobs, the belief that no one at corporate would care. Each story reinforced Gabriel's determination to change the culture of his company from the ground up. By early afternoon, Caldwell's belongings had been removed from the building, and he was gone. Marcus had taken over the manager's office and was already working to restore morale and normalize operations. Gabriel gathered the employees one more time before leaving. "I know today has been overwhelming," he said, "and I know that real change doesn't happen overnight. But I want you to know that I'm personally committed to making sure this company lives up to the values it was founded on. You have my word." A hand went up in the back. It was a young man, barely out of his teens, who worked in the stockroom. "Mr. Hayes, how do we know this isn't just for show? How do we know that once you leave, things won't just go back to the way they were?" It was a fair question, and Gabriel respected the courage it took to ask it. "You don't know," Gabriel admitted honestly. "You have no reason to trust me based on words alone, so I'm going to give you something more concrete. I'm giving you my personal phone number." Chesley. He nodded to Patricia, who began handing out business cards to everyone in the store. "That number goes directly to my cell phone," Gabriel continued. "If you experience or witness any kind of mistreatment, any retaliation, anything that makes you feel unsafe or disrespected, you call me directly, day or night, and I will personally make sure it's addressed. Oh, prospective, not like downed." The young man looked at the card in his hand, then back at Gabriel. "You're serious?" "Completely serious," Gabriel confirmed. "This company exists because of people like you. You're not disposable. You're not replaceable. You matter. And I'm going to spend however long it takes proving that to you." As Gabriel prepared to leave the store, Maya approached him quietly. "Mr. Hayes, can I ask you something?" "Of course, and please call me Gabriel." "Why did you really come here?" Maya asked. "Yesterday, I mean. You could have sent someone else to investigate. You didn't have to see it yourself." Gabriel considered the question carefully. "Because I'd lost touch," he said finally. "I'd become so focused on expansion and profits that I forgot what this company was supposed to be about. I needed to remember what it felt like to be on the ground floor, to see the reality of what my employees experience every day." He paused, his voice growing softer. "And honestly, I needed to know if I still had the courage to do the right thing, even when it was hard, even when it meant admitting I'd failed." Maya smiled, a real, genuine smile that transformed her entire face. "I think you have more than enough courage." "I hope so," Gabriel said, "because we have a lot of work ahead of us. Before we continue, if you're feeling inspired by what just happened, drop a like on this video and share it with someone who needs to see that standing up for what's right still matters. And leave a comment telling me what you would have done in Gabriel's position. Part 3 is coming, and the story gets even better. Gabriel returned to his hotel that evening, exhausted but energized in a way he hadn't felt in years. He'd spent the rest of the afternoon at the store, talking to employees, answering questions, and beginning the process of rebuilding trust. But his work wasn't done, not by a long shot. Over the next 3 weeks, Gabriel threw himself into reforming Brightmart's corporate culture. He personally visited 15 different store locations, conducting surprise inspections and talking directly to employees. He discovered that while Caldwell's case was one of the worst, it wasn't isolated. There were other managers who'd created toxic environments, other regional directors who'd buried complaints to protect their numbers. Gabriel fired 12 more managers and 3 regional directors. He overhauled the HR complaint process. He implemented mandatory training on workplace respect and harassment prevention for every single person in a management position. But the most important change was the one that happened quietly, behind the scenes. Maya started her new position at corporate headquarters on a Monday morning, 3 weeks after Gabriel's visit to the Atlanta store. She was terrified. She'd never worked in an office environment before. She didn't have a college degree. She was convinced that everyone would see her as an imposter, someone who didn't belong. Gabriel had assigned her to work directly with Patricia in the Employee Relations Department. Her official title was Employee Advocate, and her job was exactly what it sounded like, to be a voice for frontline workers in corporate discussions and decisions. On her first day, Patricia gave her a tour of the headquarters, a sleek, modern building that made Maya feel completely out of her depth. "I know this is overwhelming," Patricia said kindly, noticing Maya's anxiety. "But you belong here. Gabriel doesn't make decisions lightly, and he wouldn't have offered you this position if he didn't believe you could excel at it." "I've never done anything like this before," Maya admitted. "I don't know how to navigate corporate politics or write reports or any of the things I'm supposed to do." Patricia smiled. "We can teach you the technical skills. What we can't teach is what you already have: empathy, insight, and the courage to speak truth to power. Those are the things that matter most." Maya's first few weeks were a steep learning curve. She attended meetings where people used acronyms she didn't understand and discussed concepts that went over her head. But Patricia was patient, and so were the other members of the team. And slowly, Maya began to find her footing. Her real value became apparent during her first major project. The company was redesigning the employee break room standards across all locations, and the facilities team had put together a proposal. On paper, it looked great. New furniture, fresh paint, better lighting. But when Maya reviewed the plans, she saw problems immediately. "There's no space for people to lie down," she pointed out during the presentation meeting. "If you're working an 8 or 10-hour shift on your feet, sometimes you need to actually rest during your break, not just sit. And there's no refrigerator space for people who bring their lunch. If you're working 2 jobs like I was, you can't afford to buy food every day. You need somewhere to store what you brought from home." The facilities director looked embarrassed. "We didn't think about that. Also," Maya continued, gaining confidence, "the furniture you picked is all hard plastic. That's easy to clean, but it's uncomfortable. People won't actually want to spend their breaks in there. And the lighting is too bright. When you're exhausted, harsh fluorescent lights make it worse." Patricia smiled. "What would you suggest instead?" Maya pulled out her phone, where she'd made notes. "Comfortable seating with some options for people to put their feet up. Softer lighting with dimmer switches. A larger refrigerator and a microwave that actually works well. Maybe some plants or calming colors. It should be a space where people can actually recharge, not just kill time." The room was silent for a moment. Then Gabriel, who'd been sitting quietly in the back of the meeting, spoke up. "Those are excellent suggestions. Make the changes." The facilities director nodded. "Yes, sir. We'll revise the plans." After the meeting, Gabriel caught up with Maya in the hallway. "That was impressive," he said. Maya ducked her head, embarrassed. "I was probably overstepping." "Not at all," Gabriel said firmly. "That's exactly why you're here. You see things the rest of us miss because you've lived them. Don't ever apologize for that." He paused, then added, "How are you settling in? Is the job what you expected?" "Honestly, I didn't know what to expect," Maya admitted. "But everyone's been really kind. Patricia is amazing, and I feel like maybe I can actually make a difference here." "You already are," Gabriel assured her. Over the following months, Gabriel and Maya developed a strong working relationship. She became his go-to person whenever he needed a reality check on policies or decisions. He valued her perspective in a way that surprised both of them. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. It started small, Gabriel finding excuses to stop by Maya's office to ask her opinion on things. Maya looking forward to those visits more than she wanted to admit. Conversations that started about work but drifted into personal territory. Gabriel learned about Maya's daughter, Lily, a bright 6-year-old who loved dinosaurs and wanted to be a paleontologist when she grew up. He heard about Maya's mother, whose cancer treatment was going well thanks to the health insurance coverage from her new job. He discovered that Maya had dreamed of being a teacher before life got in the way. Maya learned about Gabriel's past, about growing up poor, about his mother who'd sacrificed everything to give him opportunities. She heard about the loneliness of success, about how building an empire had cost him relationships and connection. She saw the man behind the title, someone who was driven not by greed, but by a deep need to prove that hard work and integrity could still mean something. They began having lunch together occasionally, then regularly, then daily. Neither of them acknowledged what was happening. It felt too complicated, too risky. Gabriel was her boss, technically, even though she didn't report directly to him. Maya was still rebuilding her life, still figuring out who she was outside of survival mode. The power dynamic was undeniable, but the connection was undeniable too. 6 months after Maya started working at corporate headquarters, Gabriel invited her to a company event, the annual Brightmart Employee Recognition Dinner. It was a formal affair where outstanding employees from across the country were honored for their contributions. "You should be there," Gabriel said. "You've been instrumental in the changes we've made." "I don't have anything to wear to something like that," Maya admitted, embarrassed. "Then let's fix that," Gabriel said simply. "Consider it part of your professional development budget. Patricia can help you find something appropriate." Maya wanted to argue, but the look on Gabriel's face stopped her. This mattered to him, so she agreed. The night of the dinner, Maya felt like she was living someone else's life. She wore a simple but elegant navy dress that Patricia had helped her pick out. Her hair was styled professionally for the first time in years. She actually felt beautiful, something she'd almost forgotten was possible. When she arrived at the hotel ballroom where the event was being held, she was overwhelmed by the grandeur of it all. Crystal chandeliers, pristine white tablecloths, hundreds of well-dressed people mingling and laughing. She was about to turn around and leave when she heard a familiar voice. "You look stunning." Maya turned to find Gabriel standing behind her, dressed in an impeccably tailored black suit, but it was the way he was looking at her that took her breath away, like she was the only person in the room. "Thank you," Maya managed to say. "You look very nice too." Gabriel smiled. "Come on, let me introduce you to some people." He guided her through the crowd, his hand resting lightly on the small of her back. He introduced her to board members, regional directors, employees from across the country, and every single time, he introduced her the same way. "This is Maya Thompson, our Director of Employee Advocacy. She's been instrumental in transforming our workplace culture." Maya had been promoted to director just 2 weeks earlier, a recognition of how valuable she'd become to the organization. But hearing Gabriel say it with such pride made her heart swell. Throughout the evening, Maya watched Gabriel work the room. He remembered people's names, asked about their families, made everyone feel important. This was the side of him the world saw. Confident, successful, charming. But Maya also saw the moments when he'd glance her way, when his professional mask would slip and she'd see something deeper in his eyes, something that scared and thrilled her in equal measure. After the awards were presented and dinner was served, the lights dimmed and music began playing. Couples made their way to the dance floor. Gabriel appeared at Maya's side. "Would you like to dance?" Maya's heart hammered in her chest. "I'm not very good at this." "Neither am I," Gabriel admitted with a smile. "But we can be not very good together." He offered his hand, and after a moment's hesitation, Maya took it. On the dance floor, Gabriel pulled her close, one hand on her waist, the other holding hers gently. They swayed to the music, not quite in rhythm but not quite out of it either. "Thank you for coming tonight," Gabriel said softly. "Thank you for inviting me," Maya replied. They danced in silence for a moment, the noise of the ballroom fading into the background. Maya was acutely aware of how close they were, of the warmth of his hand on her waist, of the way her heart was racing. "Maya," Gabriel said quietly, "can I tell you something?" "Of course." He was quiet for a long moment, as if gathering courage. "When I walked into that store 6 months ago and saw you crying, something in me broke. I couldn't stop thinking about you, about how strong you were, how much you were carrying, how invisible you'd been made to feel." Maya's breath caught. Gabriel continued, his voice barely audible over the music. "And these past few months, working with you, getting to know you, I've realized something. You didn't just change my company, you changed me." Maya looked up at him, her eyes searching his face. "Gabriel, what are you saying?" He met her gaze, and the vulnerability in his eyes took her breath away. I'm saying that what I feel for you goes beyond gratitude or professional respect. I'm saying that I look forward to seeing you every day more than anything else in my life. I'm saying that I think about you when I should be thinking about spreadsheets and strategy meetings. Maya's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could feel it. This is complicated, she whispered. I know, Gabriel said. Believe me, I know. There are 1,000 reasons why this is a bad idea. The power dynamic, the optics, the professional complications. But, Maya prompted. Gabriel smiled sadly. But I can't pretend I don't feel it, and I don't want to. For the first time in years, maybe in my entire adult life, I feel like I'm actually living instead of just existing. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. I feel it too, she admitted. I've been trying not to, trying to tell myself it's just gratitude or admiration or anything other than what it is, but I can't lie to myself anymore. So what do we do? Gabriel asked. I don't know, Maya said honestly. I'm still figuring out who I am in this new life. I'm still learning how to be something other than a person in survival mode. And you're my boss, technically. People will talk. They'll say I only got this job because of you. Let them talk, Gabriel said fiercely. You earned everything you have. Anyone who's worked with you knows that. But it's not that simple, Maya insisted. I have Lily to think about. If this goes wrong, if we try this and it doesn't work, I could lose everything I've built. I can't take that risk. Gabriel's face fell, but he nodded. I understand. And I would never ask you to risk your daughter's stability or your career. You're right. It's not that simple. He stepped back slightly, creating distance between them, even as they continued to dance. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. Don't be sorry, Maya said, her voice thick with emotion. I'm glad you did. I needed to know I wasn't imagining it. The song ended, and they stepped apart. The spell was broken, but the truth hung between them now, impossible to ignore. I should probably go, Maya said quietly. It's getting late, and I need to pick up Lily from my mom's place. Of course, Gabriel said. Thank you again for coming. As Maya gathered her things and headed for the exit, Gabriel watched her go, something aching in his chest. He'd built an empire, achieved everything he'd ever thought he wanted. But in that moment, watching Maya walk away, he felt more alone than he had in years. Because for the first time, he'd found something money couldn't buy, and he couldn't have it. If you're as emotionally invested in Gabriel and Maya's story as I am, make sure you hit that subscribe button because Part 3 is going to show you how this all comes together. Drop a comment and tell me whether you think they should risk it or keep things professional. The weeks following the company dinner were difficult for both Gabriel and Maya. They continued working together, maintaining professionalism, but there was a new tension between them, an awareness of feelings that had been spoken aloud but could go nowhere. Maya threw herself into her work with even more intensity. She led initiatives to improve employee benefits, restructured the complaint process to make it more accessible, and personally responded to dozens of calls from workers across the country who were finally feeling safe enough to speak up about problems in their stores. She was making a real difference, and that knowledge sustained her through the lonely nights when she lay awake, thinking about Gabriel and wondering what might have been if circumstances were different. Gabriel, for his part, channeled his energy into expanding the reforms throughout the company. He visited stores constantly, sometimes announced, sometimes not. He fired managers who didn't live up to the company's values and promoted employees who embodied them. He rebuilt his executive team with people who understood that profit and ethics weren't mutually exclusive. But no matter how busy he kept himself, he couldn't stop thinking about Maya, the way she'd looked in that navy dress, the way she'd felt in his arms when they danced, the vulnerability in her eyes when she'd admitted she felt the same way he did, and the fear that had kept them apart. 3 months after the dinner, Patricia knocked on Gabriel's office door with an urgent expression on her face. "We have a situation," she said. "It's about Maya." Gabriel's heart dropped. "What happened? Is she okay?" "She's fine, physically," Patricia assured him, "but there's been a complaint filed against her." Gabriel's blood ran cold. "What kind of complaint?" Patricia handed him a folder. "Anonymous complaint claiming that Maya only got her position because of favoritism from you, that she's unqualified, and her presence undermines other employees who actually earned their positions. She have to D the 7. Gabriel's jaw clenched as he read through the document. The complaint was vicious, questioning Maya's credentials, her intelligence, even her character. It suggested that she was using personal relationships to advance her career, and that her input on company policy was worthless because she lacked formal education. "This is garbage," Gabriel said flatly. "Maya has exceeded every expectation. She's transformed how this company approaches employee relations. Who filed this?" "It's anonymous," Patricia said. "But I have my suspicions. There are a few people on the executive team who weren't happy with the changes you've been implementing. They've lost friends and allies to your reforms. This could be retaliation." "Then we investigate," Gabriel said firmly. "Find out who filed this. And in the meantime, I want it on record that this complaint is baseless." Patricia hesitated. "Gabriel, there's another problem. Because the complaint specifically mentions a potential inappropriate relationship between you and Maya, HR protocol requires that we investigate. And during that investigation, you shouldn't have direct contact with her." Gabriel felt like he'd been punched in the gut. "You're telling me I can't even talk to her? Not about work, not about anything. Until this is resolved," Patricia confirmed. "I know it's not fair, but it's policy. If we don't follow it, it gives credibility to the complaint." Gabriel wanted to argue, wanted to find a loophole, but he knew Patricia was right. He'd implemented these policies himself to protect employees. Now those same policies were being weaponized against the person he cared about most. "Fine," he said through gritted teeth, "but I want this resolved quickly, and I want whoever filed this complaint held accountable." "I'll get started immediately," Patricia promised. Later that day, Maya was called into a meeting with HR. She sat in the small conference room, her stomach in knots, as two HR representatives explained the situation to her. "We want to be clear that this is just a procedural investigation," one of them said. "We don't believe there's any merit to the complaint, but we have to follow protocol." Maya felt humiliated. After everything she'd accomplished, after how hard she'd worked to prove herself, someone had reduced her to nothing more than a woman who'd slept her way into a job she didn't deserve. "For the record," Maya said, her voice shaking but firm, "I have never had an inappropriate relationship with Mr. Hayes or anyone else in this company. I earned this position through my work and my contributions." "We believe you," the HR representative assured her, "but we need to conduct interviews and review documentation. It should only take a week or two. 2 weeks. 2 weeks of whispers and speculation. 2 weeks of people looking at her differently, wondering if the complaint was true. 2 weeks of not being able to talk to Gabriel, the one person who understood what she was going through." Maya left the meeting feeling sick. She went straight to the bathroom, locked herself in a stall, and cried quietly, just like she used to do at the Atlanta store. She'd thought those days were behind her. But apparently, no matter how far you climbed, someone was always ready to push you back down. The investigation was thorough and painful. HR interviewed dozens of people, reviewed every project Maya had worked on, examined every email and document related to her hiring and promotion. Gabriel was interviewed as well. He sat in the same conference room and answered every question with complete honesty. Yes, he'd personally recruited Maya for the position. Yes, he valued her input highly. Yes, they'd had lunches together and conversations that went beyond strictly professional topics. "Have you ever had a romantic or sexual relationship with Miss Thompson?" the HR investigator asked. "No," Gabriel said firmly. "Never." "Do you have romantic feelings for her?" Gabriel paused. He could lie. It would make everything simpler. But he'd built this company on integrity, and he wasn't going to abandon that now. "Yes," he admitted, "I do. But I have never acted on those feelings in any way that would compromise her position or my professional responsibilities. And my feelings have nothing to do with why she was hired or promoted. She earned everything she has." The investigator made notes. "Can you provide evidence of Miss Thompson's qualifications and contributions?" "I can provide mountains of evidence," Gabriel said. "Performance reviews, project outcomes, testimonials from employees across the country whose lives have been improved by her work. Maya Thompson is one of the most valuable people in this entire company, and that has nothing to do with how I feel about her personally. While the investigation continued, Maya's work suffered. She couldn't focus. She was constantly aware of people watching her, judging her. She heard the whispers in the break room that stopped when she walked in. She saw the skeptical looks from executives who'd never fully accepted her presence in the corporate office. One afternoon, she was sitting at her desk, staring blankly at her computer screen, when her phone rang. It was her mother. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" her mother asked. "You sounded upset when we talked this morning." Maya hadn't told her mother about the investigation, hadn't wanted to worry her, especially when her cancer treatment was going so well. "I'm fine, Mama. Just a stressful day." "You're a terrible liar, baby girl. What's really going on?" And suddenly, Maya couldn't hold it in anymore. She told her mother everything about the complaint, the investigation, the humiliation, about her feelings for Gabriel that she'd been trying so hard to suppress, about how lost and confused she felt. Her mother listened to all of it without interrupting. When Maya finally finished, exhausted from the emotional purge, her mother was quiet for a long moment. "Do you remember what I told you when your daddy left?" her mother finally said. Maya wiped her eyes. "You told me a lot of things, Mama. I told you that real strength isn't about never being afraid. It's about being afraid and doing the right thing anyway. It's about standing up for yourself, even when the whole world is trying to push you down." "I don't know if I have that kind of strength," Maya admitted. "Baby, you've had that strength your whole life. You raised Lily on your own. You worked 2 jobs to take care of me when I got sick. You survived abuse from that terrible man at your old job and still showed up every day with your head held high. Don't you dare doubt your strength now." Maya felt fresh tears sliding down her cheeks, but these were different. Not tears of defeat, but of something like resolve. "What should I do?" she asked. "You tell the truth," her mother said simply. "You hold your head up, you tell the truth, and you let the chips fall where they may. And if people don't believe you, if they want to think the worst of you no matter what evidence you show them, that's their failing, not yours." "I'm scared, Mama." "I know, baby. But you've been scared before and you survived. You'll survive this too." After she hung up, Maya sat at her desk for a long time, thinking about her mother's words. Then she opened her laptop and began documenting every single project she'd worked on, every contribution she'd made, every measurable impact she'd had on the company. If they wanted evidence of her worth, she'd give them so much evidence they'd choke on it. 2 weeks later, Patricia called both Gabriel and Maya into a meeting. They sat on opposite sides of the conference table, the first time they'd been in the same room since the investigation began. Maya's heart ached just looking at him. He looked tired, stressed, older somehow. Patricia laid a thick folder on the table. "The investigation is complete," she said, "and I'm pleased to report that the complaint has been determined to be completely without merit." Maya felt her entire body sag with relief. Patricia continued, "We conducted 47 interviews, reviewed hundreds of documents, and examined Miss Thompson's entire employment history. The evidence overwhelmingly demonstrates that she was hired based on qualifications and has been promoted based on exceptional performance." She looked directly at Maya. "Your contributions to this company have been extraordinary. The employee satisfaction scores have increased by 32% since you started. Complaint resolution time has decreased by 45%. Employee retention has improved across the board. These are measurable, documented impacts that have nothing to do with anything other than your skill, dedication, and insight." Maya felt tears of relief streaming down her face. "Furthermore," Patricia said, her voice taking on a harder edge, "we've identified the source of the complaint. It was filed by Martin Hendricks, one of our regional directors, the same regional director who had protected Richard Caldwell and buried complaints for years before being terminated in the company-wide reforms." Gabriel's face darkened. "Hendricks filed this? He used a burner email and tried to hide his identity, but our IT team traced it back to him. This was retaliation, pure and simple. He wanted to undermine the reforms by discrediting one of the people most responsible for implementing them." "Where is he now?" Gabriel asked, his voice dangerous. We've already initiated legal action, Patricia said. He violated his severance agreement by interfering with company business after his termination. Our lawyers are handling it. Gabriel nodded curtly, then turned to Maya. Are you okay? It was the first time he'd spoken directly to her in 2 weeks. Maya met his eyes and saw the concern there, the anger on her behalf, the relief that she'd been vindicated. I'm okay, she said softly. I will be okay. Patricia stood. I'll give you two a moment. She left the conference room, closing the door behind her. The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything they'd been through, everything they couldn't say. I'm sorry you had to go through that, Gabriel said finally. You didn't deserve it. Neither did you, Maya replied. I know this investigation affected you too. I don't matter, Gabriel said. What matters is that you're okay, that your reputation is intact, that you can continue doing the important work you've been doing. Maya looked down at her hands. Gabriel, we need to talk about what was said in the investigation. You don't have to. Yes, I do, Maya interrupted gently. I know what you told them, about having feelings for me. Patricia showed me the transcript. Gabriel closed his eyes. I wasn't going to lie. But I made it clear that those feelings never influenced any professional decisions. I know, Maya said, and I told them the same thing, that I have feelings for you too, but that it didn't affect my work or my position. Gabriel's eyes opened, searching her face. Maya, these past 2 weeks have been hell, Maya continued, not just because of the investigation, but because I couldn't talk to you, couldn't see you, and I realized something. What? Maya took a deep breath, gathering her courage. I realized that I've been so afraid of losing what I've built that I haven't been letting myself actually live. I've been in survival mode for so long that I don't know how to do anything else. But that's not really living, is it? No, Gabriel agreed quietly. It's not. My mother told me that real strength is being afraid and doing the right thing anyway, Maya said. And I think the right thing, the brave thing, is to stop running from this, from us. Gabriel's breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying that I'm tired of being afraid, Maya said. I'm tired of letting other people's judgments dictate my choices. I'm tired of denying what I feel because it's complicated or risky or doesn't fit into some perfect plan. She stood up and walked around the table until she was standing directly in front of him. I'm saying that I love you, Gabriel Hayes, and I think you love me. And maybe that's messy and complicated and people will talk, but I don't care anymore. Life is too short to spend it running from the people who make you feel alive. Gabriel stood, his eyes shining with emotion. You love me? I love you, Maya confirmed. I've been fighting it for months, telling myself all the reasons it was a bad idea. But the heart doesn't care about logic or power dynamics or what other people think. Gabriel reached out, cupping her face gently in his hands. I love you too. God, Maya, I love you so much. You have no idea how hard it's been watching you from a distance, knowing I couldn't be there for you during the investigation. You were there, Maya said. In every policy you implemented, in every reform you fought for, in every stand you took for what was right. You've been there since the moment you walked into that store and saw me crying. I want to do this right, Gabriel said. I want to date you properly, take you to dinner, meet your daughter, spend time with your mother. I want to court you like you deserve to be courted. Maya smiled through her tears. That sounds perfect, but we have to be smart about this, Gabriel continued. We need to talk to HR, make sure we're following all the proper protocols. I don't want anyone to ever question your position or accomplishments again. Agreed, Maya said. We'll do everything by the book. And if people talk, if they judge, then they talk, Maya said firmly. I've survived worse than gossip. We both have. Gabriel leaned down and rested his forehead against hers. Are you sure about this? I don't want you to feel pressured or like you have to. Maya cut him off by rising on her toes and kissing him. It was soft and sweet and felt like coming home after a long journey. When they pulled apart, both of them were smiling. I'm sure, Maya whispered. For the first time in a long time, I'm absolutely sure. The next few months were a delicate balance of maintaining professionalism at work while building a relationship outside of it. Gabriel and Maya went to HR together and disclosed their relationship officially. To eliminate any conflict of interest, Maya's reporting structure was changed, so she reported directly to Patricia instead of being anywhere in Gabriel's direct chain of command. There were whispers, of course. There were always whispers. Some people insisted that Maya had been after Gabriel's money and position all along. Others said Gabriel was having a midlife crisis and taking advantage of a vulnerable employee. But the people who actually worked with them, who saw Maya's dedication and Gabriel's integrity, knew better. They saw two people who respected each other, challenged each other, made each other better. Gabriel took things slowly, just as he'd promised. Their first official date was at a small Italian restaurant, far from the corporate office, where they could just be two people getting to know each other without the weight of titles and positions. Gabriel asked Maya about her dreams, the ones she'd put on hold. She told him about wanting to be a teacher, about loving the idea of shaping young minds and making education accessible to kids who came from backgrounds like hers. "You could still do that," Gabriel said. "Nothing says you have to stay in corporate work forever." "Maybe someday," Maya said. "Right now, I feel like I'm making a difference where I am, but I like knowing the door isn't closed." "No door is ever closed," Gabriel assured her. "Not for you." The first time Gabriel met Lily, Maya's 6-year-old daughter, was at a park on a Saturday afternoon. Maya had been nervous, worried about how Lily would react to her mother dating someone new, but she'd underestimated both her daughter and Gabriel. Gabriel showed up with a book about dinosaurs, having remembered that Lily loved paleontology. Within 10 minutes, he was sitting on a park bench with Lily in his lap, reading about the Jurassic period, while Lily peppered him with questions he mostly couldn't answer. Maya watched them together, her heart so full it hurt. This was what she'd been afraid of losing if she took a risk on love, but now she realized that taking the risk had given her even more. Meeting Maya's mother was more intimidating. The older woman had been through her own share of hardship and was fiercely protective of her daughter and granddaughter. She studied Gabriel with sharp eyes during their first dinner together, asking pointed questions about his intentions and his character. But by the end of the evening, she pulled Gabriel aside while Maya was putting Lily to bed. "You're good for her," Maya's mother said simply. "I can see it in her eyes. She's happy in a way she hasn't been since before Lily's father left." "Ah, I intend to keep making her happy," Gabriel said, "for as long as she'll let me." "See that you do," her mother said, "because that girl has been through enough. She deserves someone who sees her worth and treats her accordingly." "I do see her worth," Gabriel said, "every single day." 6 months into their relationship, Gabriel invited Maya to his penthouse apartment for the first time. She'd been nervous about seeing how he lived, worried that the wealth gap between them would feel too wide to bridge. But when she walked into his home, she found it surprisingly warm. Yes, the view was spectacular, and the space was large, but it wasn't ostentatious. There were photos on the walls, books on the shelves, comfortable furniture that looked actually lived in. "This isn't what I expected," Maya admitted. "What did you expect?" Gabriel asked, amused. "I don't know. Something colder, more like a magazine spread and less like a home." Gabriel pulled her close. "I learned a long time ago that money can't buy the things that matter. It can't buy connection or love or purpose. I'd trade all of this in a heartbeat for what I have with you." Maya kissed him softly. "You don't have to trade anything. We can have both." That night, as they sat together on Gabriel's couch, watching the city lights twinkle below, Gabriel said something that took Maya's breath away. "Move in with me." Maya pulled back to look at him. "What?" "Move in with me," Gabriel repeated. "You and Lily and your mother. This place is way too big for one person, and I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to have breakfast with Lily. I want to be part of your daily life, not just the weekends and evenings we can steal together." "Shivis." "Gabriel, that's a huge step." "I know," he said, "and if you're not ready, I understand. But I am ready. I'm more than ready." Maya thought about her small apartment, the one she'd struggled so hard to keep during those dark days. It represented survival, safety, independence. But maybe it was time to let go of survival mode and embrace actually living. "Can I think about it?" she asked. "Take all the time you need," Gabriel assured her. Maya talked to her mother and Lily about it. Her mother was supportive but cautious, reminding Maya that she should only make the move if she was certain. Lily, on the other hand, was thrilled at the idea of living somewhere with a bedroom big enough for all her dinosaur toys. But what finally made up Maya's mind was a conversation with Patricia at work. "I heard Gabriel asked you to move in," Patricia said during one of their weekly check-ins. Maya wasn't surprised she knew. Patricia knew everything. He did. And I'm scared, Maya admitted. "What if it doesn't work out? What if I'm making a mistake?" Patricia smiled. "Maya, you've made a career out of taking calculated risks. You left an abusive work situation for an uncertain opportunity. You accepted a position you felt unqualified for and excelled beyond anyone's expectations. You stood up against false accusations and came out stronger. Why are you afraid of this?" "Because this is my heart," Maya said quietly. "This is my daughter's stability. This is everything that matters." "Exactly," Patricia said. "Which is why you should trust yourself. You wouldn't be considering this if you didn't believe, deep down, that it was right. Stop overthinking and start trusting your instincts." That evening, Maya told Gabriel her answer. "Yes," she said simply. "Yes, we'll move in with you." Gabriel's face lit up like a child on Christmas morning. "Really?" "Really," Maya confirmed. "But we're going to do this slowly. Lily needs time to adjust. My mother needs to feel comfortable. And we need to figure out how to blend our lives in a way that works for everyone. Whatever you need," Gabriel promised. "We'll take it as slow as you want." The move happened over the course of a month. Gabriel converted one of his spare bedrooms into a room fit for a dinosaur-loving 6-year-old, complete with educational posters and a bookshelf full of paleontology books. He set up another room for Maya's mother, with accessibility features, to make her life easier as she continued her cancer recovery. And slowly, carefully, they became a family. It wasn't always perfect. Lily had nightmares sometimes and called for her mama in the middle of the night. Maya's mother had days when her treatment made her too sick to leave her room. There were arguments about household responsibilities and parenting decisions and how to navigate their relationship in public. But they worked through it, together. 1 year after Maya moved in, Gabriel took her back to the Atlanta Brightmart store, where they'd first met. It had been transformed. New management, happy employees, a completely different atmosphere. They walked through the aisles together, and several employees recognized them. They stopped to chat, to thank Gabriel and Maya for the changes that had been implemented throughout the company. When they reached the spot near the cleaning supply closet, where Gabriel had first seen Maya crying, he stopped. "This is where everything changed for me," he said quietly. "I came here thinking I was going to uncover some corporate mismanagement. Instead, I found you." Maya smiled. "I was at my lowest point that day. I thought my life was never going to get better. And then you showed up." Gabriel reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Maya's breath caught. "I've been carrying this around for 3 months, Gabriel admitted, waiting for the perfect moment. "And then I realized there is no perfect moment. There's just us, and this journey we've been on, and the future we could build together." He got down on one knee right there in the middle of the store, and several employees gasped and pulled out their phones to record. "Maya Thompson, you are the strongest, bravest, most extraordinary person I have ever met. You've taught me what real courage looks like, what real love looks like. You've shown me that the most valuable things in life can't be bought or earned through achievement. They're given freely by people who see your heart and choose you anyway." 5. Tears were streaming down Maya's face. "I want to spend the rest of my life choosing you," Gabriel continued. "Every single day. I want to raise Lily together. I want to take care of your mother. I want to build a life and a family that honors everything we've both survived to get here." He opened the box, revealing a simple but stunning ring. "Will you marry me?" Maya didn't hesitate. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." Gabriel slipped the ring onto her finger and stood, pulling her into his arms as the employees around them burst into applause and cheers. Maya laughed and cried at the same time, overwhelmed by joy and gratitude, and a sense of rightness that she'd never felt before. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too," Gabriel replied. "Thank you for taking a chance on me. Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible," Maya said. The wedding took place 6 months later in a beautiful garden ceremony. It was intimate but joyful, with employees from across the Brightmart family in attendance. Lily served as flower girl, taking her responsibilities very seriously. Maya's mother, now in remission and healthier than she'd been in years, walked Maya down the aisle. Patricia served as maid of honor, and in her toast at the reception, she said something that perfectly captured the essence of Gabriel and Maya's relationship. "Most love stories are about two people finding each other," Patricia said, raising her glass. "But this love story is about two people who were brave enough to see each other when the whole world was trying to make them invisible. It's about justice and second chances and the revolutionary act of treating people with dignity. Gabriel and Maya didn't just find love. They created it through courage and conviction and a refusal to accept that things couldn't change." She smiled at the couple. "To Gabriel and Maya, may your love continue to transform not just your lives, but the lives of everyone lucky enough to witness it." The crowd raised their glasses and cheered. As Gabriel and Maya danced their first dance as husband and wife, surrounded by friends and family and employees whose lives had been changed by the reforms they championed together, Maya thought about how far she'd come. 2 years ago, she'd been invisible, a cleaner crying in silence, afraid to speak up, convinced that her life would never be more than survival. Now she was here, loved, valued, seen. Not because someone had rescued her, but because someone had given her the opportunity to rescue herself. And in doing so, she'd helped rescue him too. "What are you thinking about?" Gabriel asked, noticing the faraway look in her eyes. "I'm thinking about that day you walked into the store," Maya said. "About how terrified I was, about how certain I was that everything was about to get worse. And instead," Maya smiled, "instead, everything got better. Not all at once, and not without struggle, but better. You gave me a chance when no one else would. You saw worth in me when I couldn't see it in myself." "You always had worth," Gabriel said firmly. "I just helped you see it." "We helped each other see it," Maya corrected. "That's what love does. It shows you who you really are when you've forgotten." Years later, Gabriel and Maya's story became something of a legend within Brightmart and beyond. Business schools taught case studies about Gabriel's undercover investigation and the corporate culture transformation that followed. Leadership seminars used Maya's journey as an example of how unconventional backgrounds could bring invaluable perspectives to corporate decision-making. But for Gabriel and Maya, it was never about the accolades or the recognition. It was about the daily choice to see each other, to honor each other, to build something meaningful together. They established a foundation called Second Sight, dedicated to helping working-class individuals access education and career opportunities. The foundation provided scholarships, job training, and mentorship programs for people who, like Maya, had potential that had been overlooked by traditional systems. Maya eventually went back to school and got her teaching degree, teaching business ethics part-time at a local community college while continuing her work with Brightmart. She never forgot where she came from, and she used her story to inspire students who thought their backgrounds disqualified them from success. Gabriel stepped back from day-to-day operations at Brightmart, transitioning to a chairman role that allowed him more time with his family. He and Maya had a son together, a little boy they named Marcus, after Maya's late first husband. It was Maya's idea, a way of honoring the past while embracing the future. Lily grew up to become a paleontologist, just like she'd dreamed. She often credited Gabriel with encouraging her interests and teaching her that dreams were worth pursuing. Maya's mother lived to see her granddaughter graduate from college, healthy and happy and grateful for every extra day she'd been given. And through it all, Gabriel and Maya remained partners in every sense of the word. Equal, supportive, challenging each other to be better, while loving each other exactly as they were. On their 10th wedding anniversary, they returned once again to that Brightmart store in Atlanta. It had become a tradition, their way of remembering where they'd started. An employee approached them, a young man who couldn't have been more than 20. "Excuse me, are you Gabriel and Maya Hayes?" he asked nervously. "We are," Gabriel confirmed. The young man's face broke into a huge smile. "I just wanted to say thank you. I heard about what you did, how you changed this company. My mom works at a Brightmart in Detroit, and she says it's the best job she's ever had because of the policies you put in place. She's been able to go back to school because of the education benefits. You changed her life. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. What's your mother's name? Teresa Johnson, the young man said. I remember her file, Maya said. She's doing great work. You should be proud of her. I am, he said. And she's proud of you too. She tells everyone about how a cleaner became a director and changed everything. After the young man walked away, Gabriel pulled Maya close. Do you ever regret it? He asked. Taking that chance? Accepting my offer? Maya looked up at him and smiled. Not for a single second. Do you regret going undercover that day? Best decision I ever made, Gabriel said. Well, second best. What was the best? Gabriel kissed her softly. Asking you to marry me. Maya laughed. I love you, Gabriel Hayes. I love you too, Maya Hayes. They stood there in the store, in the exact spot where their journey had begun, and thought about all the lives that had been changed because one man decided to see the truth for himself and one woman decided to take a chance on hope. Because sometimes the most extraordinary love stories don't start with love at all. They start with justice, with seeing the invisible, with having the courage to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. And sometimes, when you change someone's life, you end up changing your own. If this story touched your heart, I need you to do something for me. Hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that their struggle is seen, that justice exists, and that love can come from the most unexpected places. Drop a comment and tell me what moment in Gabriel and Maya's story affected you the most. Was it when he revealed himself in the store? When Maya stood up for herself during the investigation? When he proposed? I want to hear from you. And if you're new to this channel, welcome to a community that believes in second chances, in the power of dignity, and in love that transforms. Subscribe and turn on notifications because every week we bring you stories that remind you that good still exists in this world, that people still stand up for what's right, that your life can change in an instant when someone finally sees you. Thank you for watching Gabriel and Maya's journey. Thank you for believing that one person's courage can spark a revolution, and thank you for being part of this community. Remember, you are never as invisible as you think. Someone sees your worth, someone values your struggle, and your story, just like Maya's, deserves to be told. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep fighting for what's right, keep believing in second chances, and never, ever let anyone make you feel invisible. Because you matter, your voice matters, your story matters, and sometimes the person who changes your life is just one courageous decision away.